Salawat. For the kids under age of 14, we have another room for you outside to watch the lecture. And then for the kids under the age of Salawat. For the kids under age of 14, we have a room next door for you. And kids under the age of 7, we have a kids program down the hall. Salawat. And before we start, can you guys move up so when people come in late, we'll fill in the seats. Salawat. First we'll have Moiz Hussein with Quran. Salawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال كذلك قال ربك هو علي هين ولنجعله آية للناس ورحمة منا وكان أمرا مقضيا. قال كذلك قال ربك هو علي هين ولنجعله آية للناس ورحمة منا وكان أمرا مقضيا. فحملته فانتبذت به مكانا قصيا. فأجاءها المخاض إلى جذع النخلة قالت يا ليتني مت قبل هذا قالت يا ليتني مت قبل هذا وكنت نسيا منسيا. فناداها من تحتها ألا تحزني فناداها من تحتها ألا تحزني قد جعل ربك تحتك سريا. وهزي إليك بجذع النخلة التي تساقط عليك رطبا جنيا فكلي واشربي وقري عينا فكلي واشربي وقري عينا فإما ترين من البشر أحدا فقولي إني نذرت للرحمن صوما فلن أكلم اليوم إنسيا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Next we'll have Zahra Sailani with the poem in English. Salawat.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Zahra Sahnani, and today I'll be reciting a poem titled Hussein, Hussein, Hussein by Sayyid Ali al-Musawi al-Khoei, modified by me. Hussein, 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 Hussein. The world jeers and laughs at me ever so mockingly, or should I say that ignorance blocks me. For I shed tears and my heart oozes blood, pounding with a thud in the grievance of Hussein, who was martyred 14 centuries ago. Hussein, 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 if the enemy attacked me and with my body apart and the only organ remaining alive is the heart, guaranteed every beat it shall take, it will shout, Ya Hussein. As long as we're alive, we strive to follow your lane. Hussein, your name is embedded upon my heart, from it your name shall never depart. For from my master there is much to learn and take. By following you, we have a chance to meet your father, Rasulullah, by the Kauthar lake. On Ashura, the rain poured down as blood. On Ashura, the sky shed tears for our love. On Ashura, the land of Karbala stained red. On Ashura, they all mourned the day Hussein was dead. In Karbala, Hussein and the family were prevented from water. In Karbala, they had nothing to drink, even Hussein's 6-month-old son and his thirsty daughter. In Karbala, the enemy shall kill Hussein and slaughter. In Karbala, they stabbed and martyred the son of Kauthar. O Shi'as, before you have a water to drink, stop for a second just to ponder and think, for Hussein and the family were prevented from having a sip. So shout, Ya Hussein, before the drop passes your lip. When would it be possible for me to visit your grave? I'm ready to walk and crawl towards it as if I am your slave, for I know that from you there is so much to learn and gain. For I know that you will guide me to the straight and narrow lane. Ya Hussein, salawat.
Next we'll have Daniel Iqbal with Salam in Urdu. Salawat.
بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات. Another salawat. This recitation is in Urdu language, and it's about Bibi Fatima Zahra Salamullahi alayha grieving to her father, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, about how thirsty Mazlum Hussein is at the time of his shahada, and how faultless he is, how alone he is, how much pain he has been through all day, how tired he is, and finally, how he is being slaughtered by Malone. I will start with a loud salawat. ہائے مظلوم حسین میرا مظلوم حسین، ہائے مظلوم حسین میرا مظلوم حسین، ہائے مظلوم حسین، عصر عاشور میرا لال بڑا پیاسا ہے، ہائے مظلوم حسین میرا مظلوم حسین، میرا مظلوم حسین، یہ محمد کا نواسا ہے علی کا بیٹا، کیا خطا ہے میرے بیٹے کی بتاؤ تو ذرا، ظالموں کیوں اس سے بے جرم و خطا گھیرا ہے، ہائے مظلوم حسین میرا مظلوم حسین، میرا مظلوم حسین، ہائے تنہائی کا عالم کے کوئی پاس نہیں، ہائے قاسم نہیں اکبر نہیں عباس نہیں، یا علی آؤ میرا لال بڑا تنہا ہے، ہائے مظلوم حسین میرا مظلوم حسین، میرا مظلوم حسین، ایک دن میں بھرے لشکر کا بھی غم دیکھا ہے، اس نے عباس کا اکبر کا بھی غم دیکھا ہے، دفن کر کے علی اصغر کو ابھی آیا ہے، ہائے مظلوم حسین میرا مظلوم حسین، میرا مظلوم حسین، ہائے چھلنی ہے جگر پھر بھی نہیں رویا ہے، کتنے دن سے تو میرے لال نہیں سویا ہے، آ میری گود میں سو جا تو بہت جاگا ہے، ہائے مظلوم حسین میرا مظلوم حسین، मेरा मजलूम हुसैन। आइए बहर खुदा हश्र बपा है बाबा, शिम्र खंजर लिए बाली पे खड़ा है बाबा। आपके प्यारे नवासे का गला कटता है। हाय मजलूम हुसैन, मेरा मजलूम हुसैन। हाय मजलूम हुसैन। असरे आशूर मेरा लाल बड़ा प्यासा है। हाय मजलूम हुसैन, मेरा मजलूम हुसैन। मेरा मजलूम हुसैन, मेरा मजलूम हुसैन। सलवात।
Can you guys fill in the seats up in the front before we begin the majlis? Okay. Now we'll have Sheikh Mujtaba Khalik with the majlis. Wa Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat.
No, it's fine. There's one. Ahsan. Ahsan. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق وأعز المرسلين، حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين، سيما بقية الله، روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء. قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنما المؤمنون إخوة، إنما المؤمنون إخوة فأصلحوا بين أخويكم واتقوا الله لعلكم ترحمون. آمنا بالله، صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بأبي عبد الله الحسين عليه السلام. مؤمنين مؤمنات, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our efforts and increase our rewards as we continue to commemorate the calamities that came upon the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam in this month of Muharram. We began a discussion on Imam Hussein's universal message of love. And last night, as we were speaking of the individual journey, everyone's journey in purification and in increasing their share of this blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ability to have love and compassion. I mentioned a few points that were in relation with that individual or with the individual's journey, and there were a couple of points that were left off that I want to first address. And then inshallah tonight's discussion is regarding unity and solidarity. We spoke briefly about it, however, inshallah we'll elaborate a little more from different points of view and perspectives, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. One of the most important, in fact, products of love with regards to an individual is that it makes them have non-violent resistance. It creates within us the ability to protest in a peaceful manner, loving and peaceful manner. Those who lack love, and one in a state of lacking love, when they are upset with something, their reaction is generally with rage and anger, and it may have violence in it. Whereas one with love, their reaction is based on their love, and so it would be non-violent. I'll give you an example, very basic example. Parents and children. I often speak about this because this is an obvious relationship of love, yeah? Especially from the parents to the children. And in fact, that's how we teach them how they should be in terms of loving and having a loving relationship. Other words, young children, in fact, every human being, by nature, they have selfishness in them. And we teach them how not to be selfish. We teach them how to share. We teach them how to care for others, not just to care for themselves. We teach them that if they have something and they share it, that's a nice thing. This is what, in fact, we have to teach. Parents know exactly what I'm referring to. Or some of you witnessed it. If you are not parents, you witnessed it in families and so on. So by nature, we have certain tendencies like selfishness. When we develop love, and when I use the example of parents, it's because they really have love for their children. It's a God-given love. It's one of the blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He made parents love their children. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it this way. Imam Hussein alayhi salam in Dua Arafah, some of you may be familiar with the dua. I urge mu'mineen and mu'minat, lovers of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, to read this dua. Read it in a language you understand. Don't read it just for the sake of, I checked the checklist. I marked the checklist, I did it, I read it. No. Read it with the intention of understanding, because that is what matters. Read this dua. It's the dua, I call it often the dua of shukr, the dua of gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the things the Imam thanks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this dua for, teaches you and I to thank God for, is the loving parents. He says, I thank you, Ya Allah, that you granted me the loving parents, the bosom of loving parents. The fact that they are so loving to me. And that is one of the greatest blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The fact that He gave that love, He put that love. In fact, the love that exists between husband and wife is also a God-given love. And this is not a claim I'm making, it is in the Holy Quran, very clear. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. He made the love and mercy between you. God made it. It's a God-given gift. And I often tell mu'mineen and mu'minat, especially those who are in the process of getting married, in the early stages or on their wedding day, I tell them, if you want to take more of a share of this ja'al, this making that God has made, this love, you abide by God's law with respect to your spouse. The more God-fearing you are with regards to your wife, the more God-conscious you are with regards to your wife or husband, in that case, for men, the more love and affection and mercy God will in fact give you and grant you. This is Ja'al Ilahi. This love is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted parents love. When they see something they don't like from their children, out of love, their reaction is not or should not be violent. Inshallah, we understand this. Their reaction, they think about, how can I handle this in a way that is effective? I want to change this behavior. How should I do it? They start thinking about how the means, the ways in which they can change their child's behavior without being violent with the child. In fact, child development psychologists and specialists, they will tell you violence with children, screaming at children, yelling at them, and violence with them is ineffective. It's not really effective. If you want an effective style, you have to use loving style. Islam, in fact, teaches us that now this is a side note, the first 7 years of the child's development and your training should be filled with love, utmost love, unconditional. You have to teach them and show them that you love them, not just if they're good. Some people, they make it seem to their children, younger children, and in some languages they use this term, I don't love you anymore. In some dialects. I hope I didn't expose any specific groups. In any case, I don't love you anymore. So just because he did something or said something, that's not how it should work. You're disappointed, yes, but in the first 7 years, you need to, it's part of the building blocks. You need to give them unconditional love through which you can train them in the next stage or the stage after. It's all based on the first part. If the foundation is right, and what is the foundation? Utruk. The hadith says, let them be, or amir. They're a prince, princess. Treat them like prince and princess. Treat them with utmost love. Little or no negativity. And that's how it is more effective, yeah? So this non-violent protest or non-violent resistance is something possible for one with love. If you have love, it's easy, possible. The more love you have, the more you can protest and resist without violence. And that is the more effective way, in fact. In societies, the best revolutions that occurred, the best changes that occurred in society are the non-violent ones. At times you start in that way, then you're attacked. Should you attack back or should you defend yourself? That's a different story. Obviously, the less we bring about violence, the more effective the revolution would be, the change would be. And we'll come to the way Imam Hussein alayhi salam displayed to the universe, to the world. The Imam salawatullah wa salamu alayhi, yes, he had to defend himself. They fought him, he had to defend himself. The goal was never to fight. Some people may think that Imam Hussein alayhi salam did not want to fight because he had small number. Yeah, that might be the misconception. Well, let's look at Imam Ali alayhi salam. Imam Ali alayhi salam in Nahrawan. In the Battle of Nahrawan, there were a group of about 4,000 of the Khawarij. And those Khawarij, no matter what the Imam spoke to them, they insisted on violence. They continued to kill and harm people not just in words. When it was just words, the Imam said nothing. They disrespected the Imam. Learn this and teach it to others about Ahlul Bayt. The school of Ahlul Bayt is different to the rest of the schools in this regard, in the fact that it is the most peaceful and loving school. They came while the Imam was the Khalifa in Kufa. They came to the masjid and they would interrupt his sermons, the Khawarij, and they were a minority. He was in charge, and yet he did not do anything to them. Then they camped in a place called Nahrawan. You might wonder, why did he fight them then? They camped in that place preparing to fight him, preparing to fight the Imam salawatullah wasalamu alayhi. And they started harming people. They started stopping people as they're traveling and asking them, do you love Imam Ali alayhi salam? They wouldn't say the titles, obviously, and the alayhi salam. If you love him, they killed them. They literally killed a man, and before they killed him, they stabbed his pregnant wife in front of him. The kinds of things that, I mean, what sort of, you might say, what sort of human beings? I mean, it's not even Muslim. What sort of an animal, in fact? This is the kind of people the Imams were dealing with. So the Imam salawatullah wasalamu alayhi sent his, at the time, his representative Ibn Abbas, Ubaidullah ibn Abbas, his cousin. He sent him and he said, talk to them. Very famous, the statement. The Imam says, don't argue with them with the Quran because they will use it against you. Hammalun dhu wujuh. The Quran could be interpreted in different ways. He said, have your discussion with them through hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It's clear. They cannot misinterpret it. This is very important, in fact, as a lesson. Regardless, then the Imams kept on giving him messages, and he himself speaking to them. Ibn Abbas, he himself says that I thought Imam Ali alayhi salam does not want to fight these people and will never fight these people. He kept on talking to them and talking to them that I thought he would never fight these people. But when he had no choice, dialogue did not get anywhere, and they insisted on not only harming others, but having a campaign of harming people. They were camping in that place to harm people and to cause chaos and mayhem in the society. They wanted to attack, so the Imam stopped it there. There was the. You will learn that Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he had the ability, if he wanted to just fight and win a battle, he could have gathered people, waited, used strategies to wait until he gets more people and gather people, and if it was just about winning a battle. He did not come to Kufa to kill the people of Kufa. He did not come to Kufa to have an army against his own people, essentially. This is what we need to understand. He came responding to their call, not to come and fight. In fact, his presence in that place was his non-violent resistance that he's teaching us. It's his loving way that you called me, I came here. You listen to his words in Karbala from the beginning, from the early hours of the day of Ashura, when after the adhan and the salat, he gave a sermon. If you listen to his words, some may think, if we don't understand from which angle the Imam is speaking, we may think, why is he acting weak? Or why is he speaking as a weak person? No, he is trying to get their emotional side because he loves them. These are Ahlul Bayt. The Imam salawatullah wasalamu alayhim ajma'een were never hating or in a state of hatred and vengeance that I want to kill these people. Never. Rather, constantly reminding them throughout the day. You might say these people already have started a battle against you, fought against you. Some of them throw arrows at you. Then the Imam throughout the day keeps telling them, is there anyone who wants to come to us and help us? In other words, and he says it to them, is there anyone who wants to buy his akhirah? A reminder, a loving reminder. These are Ahlul Bayt salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhim ajma'een. This is in fact the way of Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always reminds us, billati hiya ahsan. Choose the better way. Always look at the most effective way to change people. His mission was to reform. So what's the most effective way to bring about reform? Not that he wants to simply eradicate these people. He knows for a fact that he is. Does anyone have doubts that Imam Hussein alayhi salam is mustajabud da'wah? That if he prays and asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God would not answer his dua, for instance? Is it possible? On that day, if it was about eradicating these people, he could have asked. When it was needed, a victory in the battle was needed, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is narrated in Uhud, he said, Ya Allah, if this small group of people in Badr, or my memory now has failed me, either in Badr or Uhud, the Prophet made this dua. He said, Ya Allah, if this small group, Al-Usba, are defeated on this day, you will not be worshipped on earth after this. The Prophet has wisdom through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for victory in the battlefield on that day. On the contrary, Imam Hussein alayhi salam knew that on that day it wasn't about winning that war, winning that battle. In fact, he knew that the saving of Islam and the change in humanity would not happen if there was no shock to the body of humanity. That was the shock caused by his martyrdom. So it's through his love, salawatullah wa salamu alayh. We come to the next point, the point of, and I'm sorry if I'm going quickly with these points, there are many, and that's why on each one of those points we could go on and on. A dedicated lecture. Nevertheless, or even, I would say easily books could be written and are written about those. The next one is how love is empowering. An individual on a journey of purification, on a journey of nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on a journey of reform, on a journey of bringing about justice in the world. An individual would look at themselves as weak. Without love, I could think, well, what can I do? The whole world and I'm here. What can I do? Imam Hussein alayhi salam does not think in that way, teaches us to realize our power through, in fact, this concept of loving, being loving. He is doing his best because he loves this. It is his family. He realizes, Al-Khalqu iyalullah. All of these people are the children of God. He loves them. He cares for them. Therefore, he is doing his best. What does he have? Himself, he gave it. His children, he gave them. The sanctity and sacredness of his family, he gave. Everything that he had, he gave because he loved. And this is what love gives us, empowers us. You'll find individuals who were inspired by Imam Hussein alayhi salam. One of them, he says, I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. Humiliation. What does Imam Hussein alayhi salam say? وَهَيْهَاتٍ. They said to me, بَيْنَ السِّلَّةِ وَالذِّلَّةِ. Either you have to die, face the sword, or be humiliated. And he says, هَيْهَاتٍ مِنَ الذِّلَّةِ. This is Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Inspired, empowered the world of lovers and those freedom fighters who were willing to give anything because they loved justice and goodness and peace and spreading it in the human family. This is how they looked at it. Moving on, love gives us a long-term vision. If you are not, tunnel visioned, if we don't have love and widespread love, I'm speaking about love beyond us. Some people, all they care about, me. My family, maybe, that's a bit of a bigger circle. My tribe, my community, okay, bigger. Some, like Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and Ahlul Bayt, his family, salawatullah wa salamu alayhim ajma'een. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. They think for humanity and they're not even time bound, beyond their time. They're looking at the affairs of humanity after them. Imam Hussein alayhi salam knew on that day, I'm going. If his goal is reform, how is it happening on his time when he's going on that day? But he's looking beyond that day. Love gives one a long-term vision. There's a story that they say a king or a khalifa or some governor at a certain time, perhaps true or false, the story may be inspired by a true story. Nevertheless, he decided that he would give a reward, a big reward, to somebody who can say words of wisdom that he has not heard before. And as he's walking in his, in the city that he was the governor of, he found an old man, very old man, perhaps a person who has a few years to live, not more. And this person was planting an olive tree. Now, olive tree, when you plant it as a small plant, it takes 10, 15, maybe 20 years before it gives fruits. In fact, the first fruits you may see 10, 15 years later, but when it's really fruitful, that it's worthwhile, it's when it's like a mature tree. Yeah? So he said to him, you old man, what are you doing planting a tree that you would not see the fruits of it? He said to him, they planted, this is a very famous saying in Arabic, in fact. He said, they planted, we consumed. We plant and they consume. Huh? So thinking of the future generations, that's what love does. If you don't have that love, you don't think, okay, it doesn't matter to me. It's not going to give me fruit, so what do I do with it? But when you have love, you plant for others to bear the fruits, to harvest the fruits. Eventually, the king gave him the gift. Obviously, he said a word of wisdom. So the man smiled. As he smiled, the king said to him, what are you smiling about? He said, normally, as you said, this olive tree doesn't give its fruits until 20 years, but mine has already given me fruits. He got the gift. So he said, that's very wise. Give him another bag. So he got the second bag. He smiled again. The king said, what are you smiling about now? He said, well, normally an olive tree has one season in a year. Mine has given twice already. So he gave him the third bag and said, let's go. Let's go before we have to give him all the bags that we have. Love makes us think beyond ourselves, beyond our time, long term. And that's what it takes for reform. When you think about the society, look at today's society, you'll find so much injustice. So many people are living blind. They're living for now, for here. Okay, all they care about is how they're dressed, what car they're driving. I'm not referring to the youth only. Some youth, and that is okay for youth to be in a certain way, but they grow out of it, inshallah. If they don't grow out of it, there's a problem. In this society, we find many that did not grow out of it. They're stuck there. All they care about are their worldly gains, their worldly glamours, the houses, perhaps the cars, all the different things that they could have in terms of worldly things. Those people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about them, إِنْهُمْ كَالْأَنْعَامِ بَلْ هُمْ أَضَلُّ. They're worse than animals. He says, يَأْكُلُونَ وَيَتَمَتَّعُونَ كَمَا تَأْكُلُ الْأَنْعَامِ. They eat and enjoy their pleasures, worldly pleasures, like animals. وَالْعَيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. We see many like that around us. We see many people not completely blind, they're worse. You know who's worse? The hypocrites, munafiqeen. They know something, but when they neglect what they know, nifaq starts growing in their hearts, hypocrisy. That's how hypocrisy starts. You neglect what you know. You want to know more and learn more, and God inspires you and so on, act on what you know. من عمل بما يعلم كفاه الله or علمه الله ما لا يعلم. If you act on what you already know, God will give you more. But if you do not act on what you know, it would bring about hypocrisy, وَالْعَيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. And that's what we need to be very careful about. And we'll find many. They know some things, they ignore it, they neglect it. What happens? They want to defy what they read in their books about the coming of the Savior. They want to fight against it. They want to fight God. They know something, but they want to fight against it. And you'll find those as well. You'll find in today's world so much chaos, so much oppression, and you'll feel like, as I said earlier, sometimes we feel helpless. How can I change the world? It doesn't change overnight. Look at the bigger picture. And if you look at the bigger picture, in the history of humanity, we're moving in a positive direction. You might say we see some things that are extremely bad around us, but overall the move is in a positive direction. More and more people today are speaking of human rights, of justice, of goodness. In fact, dictators in today's world, when they want to go and fight, they have to justify it to the world. In the past, they didn't have to. In the past, we're attacking another nation and people cheer for them. Yeah? It doesn't matter why. We're just going to attack them and we'll bring all the good things. Unfortunately, some of the so-called Muslim leaders after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam acted this way. The Bani Umayyah acted this way. Bani al-Abbas acted this way. Uthmanis acted this way. Early leaders after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam acted this way. And many other, just like other territorial powers who are just about expanding territory and getting more treasures. They went and fought. In the past, that was okay. In today's world, they have to justify it one way or another, through the media, here, there, whatever they do, they have to justify it to their people before they can do it. In most countries, in most of the world. So that is in itself a positive thing. And there's a lot of positive if you look at overall the state of humanity. It is moving in the right direction, and that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. Every one of us can play a role in either the positive change or some of the negatives that happen around us, and we become the obstacles. Because yes, there will come a time that the world will be filled with oppression, just like There's so much good happening. At the same time, the techniques and the ways of evil are also advancing, unfortunately. In the past, when they wanted to wage a war, they had to carry the sword, arrows and spears and go and fight, yes? Now it's the press of a button. Oh, that's scary. Huh? We're, in a sense, there is also danger from this angle. And this is why the ayah says, ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس. Fasad, mischief is happening because of people. We're changing things in the world. As we advance, some of the things that we could do so positively and utilize so positively are used very negatively in ways that are destroying the land and the sea, the oceans, everything. Again, love grants us long-term vision. Coming to tonight's points, inshallah, I will try and go through them quickly. Regarding unity and solidarity, it's all interrelated. So far, whatever we speak about, you can see how love can bring about those positive things collectively. Yes, an individual, out of love, they realize that I can, in the long term, make an impact, even if I say a word. You know, because a good word is like a good seed. It will eventually become a plant, a tree, and eventually gives its fruits. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, تُؤْتِي أُكُلَهَا كُلَّ حِينٍ بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهَا. And an evil word will go. It's like the froth on the water. It's pointless and it'll go. It doesn't last. As we speak of unity and solidarity, we'll find that Imam Hussein alayhi salam displayed one of the best examples in terms of loving all and bringing that unity and solidarity regardless of any of what people use for sectarianism and dividing people. Others may use religion, may use ethnicity, may use a sect within the religion to divide. Imam Hussein alayhi salam disregarded all of that and united all. We'll find in his campaign amongst the companion of Imam Hussein alayhi salam were people who were non-Arab. We'll find people who were from a different color, completely different color, different ethnicity. We'll find amongst his companions people at the time, they had a classification in the society of a slave and non-slave, yes? He had both. In other words, there's no exclusive thing that only masters can go and slaves cannot. No. Amongst the companions who you and I sit or stand and give salam and we say Assalamu ala al-Husayn wa ala Ali ibn al-Husayn wa ala awlad al-Husayn wa ala ashab al-Husayn. Every time we recite Ziyarat Ashura, a very authentic ziyarah, by the way, for those who try and question things, if they want to refer to books, I can give them references about the authenticity of Ziyarat Ashura. Some sections in the end there are questions. Nevertheless, the ziyarah is authentic from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Imam Baqir and Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. In there, a salam for Ashabul Hussein is eternal. Slave, master, doesn't matter. Arab, non-Arab, didn't matter. Colors didn't matter. Religions did not matter. You think it's only Muslims? The Imam targeted a family. The Imam handpicked those. You know what I mean by handpicked? He went to different areas on his journey and went to specific places, knowing people whom he knew before. The names are written. If you wonder about that, read about Isa alayhi salam and how he went and looked for his gems. There's a story about Isa alayhi salam looking for the gems, and he got an individual who was a gem in his society. Imam Hussein alayhi salam went around looking for those gems. And I'm hoping and praying, and we should all hope and pray that we are the gems that our Imam picks. He went and found an individual who was from a Christian background, a Nasrani. His name is written amongst the Shuhada until today as An-Nasrani, meaning what? The Christian amongst the Ashab of Imam. Some may say, did he become Muslim before? What do you mean by did he become Muslim? Is it a label he has to wear? Or is it actions? What was his action? Were the people across the battlefield on the other side, were they Muslim? Come on. مَا لَكُمْ كَيْفَ تَحْكُمُونَ. Where is your judgment? Where's our wisdom? Is it names? They were called Muslim. They stood up and prayed. Ibn Sa'd led the salat of all the cursed ones. Him and his army. Far from the mercy of God. When I say cursed, I'm referring to the la'na, meaning far from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not a curse word as a bad word. Inshallah we understand this. It's la'na. The mal'oon with the mal'oonin. Mal'oonin ala lisani Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The ziyarah is clear. وَلَعَنَ اللَّهُ أُمَّةً سَمِعَتْ بِذَلِكَ فَرَضِيَتْ بِهِ. Did they not hear the call? Did they not see the Imam in front of them? They were okay with it. Even if they didn't, some people came to Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, they said, we didn't do anything. We were there. We didn't do anything. I didn't throw any stone, any arrow, nothing. I didn't do anything. I was just in the army of the enemy. He said, you added to the numbers. The Imam salawatullah wasalamu alayhi said, you added to their numbers. Numbers give power. You added to the numbers. Those people supposedly stood and prayed. To who? I don't know. What religion? I don't know. What prophet? I don't know. Because in salat, no salat without Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli. No salat. No Sunni, no Shia. Nobody accepts a salat. No scholar, no mufti, no imam. Nobody accepts a salat without Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali. Allahumma salli ala Ali Muhammad is there in front of them. And they are supposedly praying. And on the other hand, a man who was not, perhaps until that day he didn't know what prayers are or Muslim prayers are. Perhaps on that day he stood, and I want you to understand this, my dear brothers and sisters. Don't look down upon anyone. I'm a Muslim, he's not. I'm Shi'i, he's not. I'm this, he's not. Don't. They may have a better ending than you and I. We don't know. Until that day, that man didn't know Fatiha, did he? Surah Al-Fatiha, he didn't know. Perhaps when they stood to pray, he stood to pray with them and just did whatever they're doing, not knowing what to say. Was he a Muslim? Is that a question? This is the camp of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. No borders whatsoever. It brought everyone together. Only non-Muslims? No. One of the companions, and I will not mention the name because there's a controversy about him. Nevertheless, that the Imam also went after him. He sent someone to call him. The man did not want to come. He was avoiding the Imam. Eventually, his wife was the one who said to him, the grandson of the Prophet is sending after you and you're not going. He went. When he came back, he said to his wife, you can go home now, I'm going. He was already ready to be a martyr. He knew that going and joining Imam Hussein alayhi salam meant martyrdom. He knew that. He was avoiding that, a little hesitant for whatever reason. Nevertheless, he became amongst the martyrs in Karbala, the heroes. He became one of the heroes in Karbala. He is known historically as one who was amongst the people who considered, there was a time, at that time, there was no Shia Sunni, by the way, at that time. What there was were people who were questioning whether or not Uthman was the right Khalifa or not. That was a question. And so some said that, no, he shouldn't have been the Khalifa from the beginning. And some said, no, he was a martyr. And this man was one of those who said he was a martyr. They called them Uthmaniyul Hawa. That they considered Uthman was a Khalifa and he shouldn't have. So they were not amongst those who were fully aware of Ahlul Bayt having the right of Khilafah right after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Imam Ali being the first Imam regardless of what happened historically. He was not amongst those. Yes, some were. Not that everybody. There were some who were well aware of that. Habib ibn Madahir was one of them. Han ibn Urwa was one of them. These people were well aware of the status of Imam Ali alayhi salam from the beginning. But amongst the masses of the people, because of the way the Ahlul Bayt dealt with the situation, specifically Imam Ali alayhi salam, not to cause a problem in the Muslim Ummah, they did not speak so publicly and loudly about these issues. Time will come and they will deal with these issues. That is why Khutbah Shaqshaqiyya, that is very clear about the statement of the Imam, was not common. It was something that he said, and Ibn Abbas, when he asked him, why don't you continue, when he was interrupted, somebody interrupted the Imam says it was shaqshaqatun, it was some sort of, a sigh that came out of me, and now it's done. I don't want to talk about it anymore. You see, the Imam did not want to cause any fitna by even talking about these where it's not necessary to talk about it. Time will come, people will learn. And that's how they dealt with it. And that's how we should deal with it. Don't talk about the differences in the beginning. Talk about, isn't that what we do in interfaith? We talk about common things first. Sometimes we come to other brothers from other schools of thought, and the first thing we want to talk about are the differences. No, start with the similar things. Eventually, the time will come and you'll talk about the differences. In fact, my strategy, and I advise mu'mineen and mu'minat, that if you want to talk and if you want to speak about differences, speak from Muawiyah onwards. Don't start with the first and second and third. Muawiyah onwards. Muawiyah la'natullah alayh, no problem. Yazid la'natullah alayh, no problem. Don't go behind, okay? And that'll take care of the matter. Because once you break that link in the chain, the rest of it is broken. That's the reality. In any case, the Imam salawatullah wasalamu alayh in his camp had representation of every group of the then world. In other words, no borders. Love all and recognize them as the children of God whom He loves. Try to guide them out of love. Don't feel a sense of superiority against anybody. He could be better than you. He could be better than me. The statement should be always huwa khayrun minni. He is better than me. She is better than me. With that mentality, inclusivity, you have more of a chance of creating that unity amongst the good against the bad, against the evil. And that's what it's all about. Imam Hussein alayhi salam represented all the good on that day. The enemy represented all the evil. How? Different levels. Some attached to their worldly belongings were not willing to stand up for justice and fairness. Some because of certain fears, some because of certain gains that they were expecting. Different people for different reasons represented all the worldly people, and on the other hand, the Imam and his companions represented all the godly people. Uniting in rejecting tyranny is the second point I want to mention. I started with the ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declares the believers, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةً. And I said, when we speak of mu'minun, you could say Muslim only, or you could say believers. You can make it wider, bigger, the circle. Mu'minuna, believers. Again, inclusive. People of Sham, it's not them. When a man from Sham comes, Imam Hassan alayhi salam is disrespected. His father is disrespected in front of him. The Imam still includes him. Says it's okay. After the man finished, you know the story. He said, perhaps you're hungry, perhaps you're thirsty, perhaps you need new clothes, perhaps you ran out of funds. Whatever it is that you need, we can help you. You'll find us the right people to help you. Then the man changed completely. Because the Imam did not have, oh, you're from Sham? Get him. That is what the cursed Muawiyah would do. The school of sectarianism. That's the school of the enemy, not the school of Ahlul Bayt. On the other hand, Ahlul Bayt salawatullah wa salamu alayhim, even Imam Zainul Abidin in Sham, what was his mission? Zainab salamullah alayha in Sham, what was her mission? To change the minds of these people. They didn't look down upon them, that these people are people of Sham, they fought against our father Imam Ali alayhi salam, and they are with Muawiyah, therefore they're our enemies. No, they included them and tried to guide them, tried to display the correct picture to them. The last point I want to say is that though whatever we're sharing here, stories of Ahlul Bayt salawatullah wa salamu alayhim ajma'een and their companions, all of that is so that through loving them, we have stories that resonate with us and help us learn the lessons on how to improve individually and as a society. It is not simply a story for entertainment. Like what we read in Surah Yusuf, the last ayah in Surah Yusuf, لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي قَصَصِهِمْ عِبْرَةً لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. These stories are for ibrah. We're not here simply to entertain one another. It's not about me presenting in a certain way that I'm entertaining you and you feel like you were entertained and it was nice. No, it is about ibrah, lessons that we need to learn, take with us and utilize these lessons from Ahlul Bayt, from Imam Hussein alayhi salam in our day-to-day life. That is what it's intended to be. Love makes it that way because it resonates in the hearts. It sits, it lives in the hearts, therefore it has more of a chance of reflecting itself in our day-to-day transactions. That's why it is important that we bring about emotions in the masa'ib of Ahlul Bayt. We remember them with emotions so that these lessons are deep in the hearts. That they have more of a chance of reflecting themselves in our lives. Otherwise, change is not easy. Change is not easy. You read in psychology, you read in social studies, change on an individual level and on a social level is not easy. But with love and deep emotions, it is more possible. It is really and easily possible with love. This is why it is important that we grow that love of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein in our hearts. A man who had that deep love for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, tonight is typically in certain cultures, and these things are cultural. They have their goodness, we have to understand, but it's cultural, it's not religious. Typically, in certain cultures, they remember Muslim ibn Aqil on the 5th night of Muharram. Tonight is the night of the 5th day, in other words, the 5th night of Muharram. Muslim ibn Aqil, salamullah alayh, was one of those who he completely embraced the love of Imam Hussein alayhi salam deep in his heart, and it reflected itself in everything that he did. And these were the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. That's why the Imam says, I never saw, ma ra'aytu, by God, I never saw companions like my companions or family members like my family members. Some of our scholars, they say the Imam is not speaking just about his time. He's speaking back from the time of Adam until the end of times. These companions were special. These family members that he had were special, were unique. In everything that they did, they displayed the love of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Muslim salamullah alayhi, the Imam sent him with a letter saying, I am sending to you my trusted one, thiqati, completely trusted by the Imam salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. He comes to Kufa, he is welcomed by people. Many people came and gave him bay'ah. He sent the letter to the Imam, the place is ready, come yabna Rasulullah, and the Imam is on his way. Ibn Ziyad la'natullah alayh comes to the city, very cunning individual, very cunning and manipulative individual. He started manipulating the people, some of them bribing them, some of them threatening them. Eventually they dispersed, some of them prisoning them in fact, and so some were even martyred and killed. They dispersed. Muslim salamullah alayh became lonely, one man in that city, the only one willing, and this is the point I want to say, the only one willing to continue his support publicly for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. In other words, fight like the companions fought in Karbala, not willing to give bay'ah no matter what they do to him, the one publicly and openly opposing them in the path of the Imam and the mission of the Imam, out of love for the Imam of his time, salawatullah wa salamu alayhi, was Muslim. In that city, it was only Muslim. There was nothing but Muslim. No one but Muslim. Some of them were in prison. Some of them stayed silent in their homes. Some of them, they snuck out of the city. You know, narrators say some snuck out of the city to come to Karbala. But Muslim, openly and publicly. He walks in the streets of Kufa one day after people had left him all alone. He finished his Salatul Isha. He turns around, no one is around him. Nobody. Everyone left him. And he walks. He eventually comes to the door of a lady. She's known as Tawa historically. She asked him, what are you doing? I'm a lady of my own. It's not appropriate for you to sit here. He says, I am thirsty. She brings him water. After he drinks the water, she says, now you can go home. He says, where do I go? I'm not from here. Where are you from? She realizes who he is. Eventually she says, come and hide in my house. Muslim sleeps the night, perhaps between prayers and his connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and getting some rest. Eventually, her own son realizes that Muslim is in the house. He went and told. So they came. They came in the morning. Muslim came out and fought with them. You may ask, why didn't he surrender at that point? He could have said, okay, I'm on my own. No. His mission was to fight because they either want him to surrender and be with them in the sense that he gives in, He gives the bay'ah. I'm with Yazid now, I give the bay'ah. Or he has to fight. He has no third choice. And so he fought. Until they tricked him, they had dug a hole for him. When he fell, they pulled his sword from him so they could take him as a captive. Otherwise, they could never get to him. They got to the Qasr al-Imara, or al-Imara, the Amir, and they got him to Ibn Ziyad, la'natullah alayh. When he spoke to Ibn Ziyad started cursing Imam Ali alayhi salam, like the tradition of Bani Umayyah, and accusing them of being liars and so on. Again, that is the opposition at that point. Love spoke out. He says, the ones who are liars are you and your father and the one who sent you, your leader, O son of the adulteress. In other words, now he's preparing himself for martyrdom. So eventually he says, take him. They take him. His only wish at that point, he says, if anyone can take my message to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, my beloved, I don't care what happens to me now, but I'm worried that I told Imam Hussein this is a place that is safe for him, that people are ready for him, and now I know that he has no place in this city. If he comes here, he will be left alone. If anyone would have some sense of love, some sense of mercy in them, to go and tell Imam Hussein alayhi salam not to come to Kufa. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. Do not come to Kufa, O Aba Abdullah. I want to say, mu'mineen and mu'minat, how many of us could be like Muslim, the trusted one of the Imam of his time. He performed the salat as his last salat. They were so much in love with salat. He performed this salat. He turned towards the direction of the traveling of Imam Hussein. He gave his salam to his master. Give your salam. Assalamu alayk ya Aba Abdullah. The news of martyrdom of Muslim came to the camp of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. The Imam was in tears reciting Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Eventually the Imam says to them, bring me the daughter of Muslim. He sat her on his lap, wiped over the head of the daughter of Muslim. Hamida says, I feel like you're wiping over my head, like they wipe over the head of orphans. What has happened to my father, or uncle, or Aba Abdullah? He says to her, oh Hamida, from now on you will call me father. You can call me father. I will be your father. Aba Abdullah, I ask you, how would Hamida have felt on the day of Ashura? You said to her to call you father, yet she is watching you farewelling the ladies and the children. She's watching you farewelling your daughter as she sat on your lap and said, "Oh Father, oh Aba Abdullah, when you are gone, who is going to wipe over my head?" Recite with me, Muslim, oh Muslim, what a beautiful name. I want to be like you, chosen by my Imam. Muslim, oh Muslim, what a beautiful name. I want to be like you, chosen by my Imam. In the realm of virtue, a soul ascends, a noble ambassador whom fate commands, chosen by Imam Hussein with love and care, to spread his message, his legacy to share. Muslim, oh Muslim, what a beautiful name. I want to be like you, chosen by my Imam. Muslim, oh Muslim, what a beautiful name. I want to be like you, chosen by my Imam. In every step he is a beacon of light, guiding hearts, dispelling the darkness at night, with words of wisdom, compassion and grace, a reflection of Imam Hussein's embrace. Muslim, oh Muslim, what a beautiful name. I want to be like you, chosen by my Imam. Muslim, oh Muslim, I want to be like you, chosen by my Imam. An embodiment of unity and love, a messenger from the heavens above. With humility and kindness he imparts the essence of Imam Hussein's heart. Muslim, oh Muslim, what a beautiful name. I want to be like you, chosen by my Imam. Muslim, oh Muslim, what a beautiful name. I want to be like you, chosen by my Imam. Uniting hearts in a common thread, a legacy of Imam Hussein's widespread. With words that heal and actions that mend, he walks the path till the very end. Muslim, oh Muslim, what a beautiful name. I want to be like you, chosen by my Imam. Muslim, oh Muslim, I want to be like you, chosen by my Imam. A voice of reason, a voice of care, an ambassador of love beyond compare. In every heart his message blooms, resonating with the Imam Hussein's tunes. Muslim, oh Muslim, what a beautiful name. I want to be like you, chosen by my Imam. Muslim, oh Muslim, what a beautiful name. I want to be like you, chosen by my Imam. A legacy he carries with honor and pride. In Imam Hussein's footsteps, side by side. To make the world a better place, he'll seal Muslim, an ambassador with love and zeal. Muslim, oh Muslim, what a beautiful name. I want to be like you, chosen by my Imam. Muslim, oh Muslim, What a beautiful name. I want to be like you, chosen by my Imam. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم إلهي بمحمد وعلي وفاطمة والحسن والحسين وبالتسعة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين. استجب دعواتنا يا الله يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم. يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلبي